Hey, Matt, Gary McDaniel, Clemson Sports News. Ironically, I'm sitting here watching your alma mater, St. Xavier, play on TV right now. But going back to your high school days, you had quite the reputation as being the big nasty out on the field, and you brought that to Clemson with you. What's it like to be Matt Bockhorst, the everyday guy, and then have to turn on that guy, big nasty, every time you step in between the numbers? And what do you have to do to flip that switch?
I think I've always just kind of had a big personality, and you never want to fabricate your personality, but that's just who I am. So, I'm a funny guy, and I like to have a good time during the day. And, at the same time, though, football is a game that I'm really passionate about. And so when I step on the field, I realize the opportunity that I have to be able to play the game, especially at this level, is not something that a lot of people get to do. And I know there's a lot of guys – thinking about guys that I played with back in high school that wish they could be in my shoes. So I feel like it's only the right thing to do to play the game the right way. And for me as a left guard, that's finishing every play to the whistle and just wearing down the D lineman and that takes a toll throughout the game. So it is definitely a switch that you flip, but for me, I just try to keep it between the lines, and it's never really personal. I know things can get chippy during practice and what have you with teammates, but we're all just trying to get each other better, so it doesn't leave the field.
Hey, Matt, it's Anna with 24/7 Sports. Speaking of things getting chippy, anything in camp or recent practices come up between you and a defensive lineman, or any good scuffles that we should know about?
Nothing in particular. I feel like most of my scrapping days are over, thankfully. I know my shoulders are a bit sore after all the years of all that with the Power Rangers, but no, it's been good. It's always super competitive, and obviously our D-line room this year is unbelievably talented. So there's competitive guys and guys that can make some plays. So things get chippy. Like I said, it's just the nature of the beast. But I think guys have a tremendous amount of respect for one another, and try to keep it within the whistles. If it goes past a little bit, it's just a little thing. We move on to the next play.
Which defensive linemen have been the toughest for you to go against, and just overall among defensive linemen, who has stood out in your estimation?
Yeah, so obviously the guy that I go against a lot is Tyler Davis, and that kid can play. And, we saw what he was able to do last year as a true freshman, which is pretty remarkable considering his age. But he's continued to get better and grow as a player. And he's, like I said, an unbelievable player, and he challenges me every day. And I'm really thankful for that because it makes me a better player. And I know that I'm going to be prepared to go against whoever I might on Saturdays. So he's one guy that, like I said, I have a lot of respect for. As far as younger guys, I'm sure everyone's heard about Brian. He's got a ridiculous get off. He's an unbelievable athlete, crazy explosive, and he's going to be a game changer. He's, still young, still raw, got things to work on, but, the tools that he came into Clemson with as a true freshman are pretty incredible. And also true freshman Miles Murphy, obviously a defensive end, so I don't go against him directly as much, but a really physical, just a ball player. And, he's another guy that I think is going to make an awesome impact this year for us. So, like I said, we have great competition every day, and it just gives us that much more of an opportunity to get better.
And Matt, going back to the O-line and the new lineup you guys have got there, you got the Ohio guys representing your side of the line. What's it like, the new version of the Clemson line, with all the guys that left the team last year? And what are you seeing in the guys behind you so far this year in camp, or since camp's ended, but now that we're getting prep for season? What are you seeing in the guys behind you, the freshmen coming in and the redshirt freshmen?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think the first thing I would say for the first group, who are we as a group? What do we look like? I would say nasty. I think that's who we've tried to be and emulate this entire camp. And, I think we're ready to take that to the field on Saturdays and really just bring an attitude. I think that, any great offensive line is going to have a little edge to them. And that's something that we've really tried to make an emphasis of this fall camp. And, obviously the elephant in the room is that we're replacing 4 starters. And I think we've got a group of capable guys. I don't think that any of us are worried. I think that we have a lot of strengths as a group, and I think are great at communicating. I think that's something that is so often overlooked for offensive line play is the communication and how the five guys work together. But I'm very high on our ability to communicate and just bringing the young guys along. I think that, you've got young guys who lack experience, but, have the tools that are there. And so as the older guys, we have to do the best we can to give a great example in practice and really in the games as well, so that they can see and learn just all of the little details and things of that nature with offensive line play, because it's just a very complex position and it's incredibly difficult to come play offensive line as a young guy right out of high school. So, we definitely have a challenge on our hands, but I don't think it's something that we can't handle.
Matt, I guess Cade is taking the majority of first team reps at center. Any of the younger guys standing out there, repping there, or is that mainly him right now?
Yeah, definitely Cade has been there for the majority of the time. I think that two young guys that stood out to me along the interior would be Hunter Rayburn and Mason Trotter. I would say those are two guys that can play guard and center. And, Mason's a little undersized, but I think his physicality is pretty good. And, he's improved a lot over the past year being here within the program and bulking up and things of that nature. And Hunter is a guy, too, who's had great size ever since he's been here, and he's a natural athlete. So, we've got guys in those positions that can play. I'm not sure Mason or Hunter, which is taking more center reps, but I know both those guys have kind of interchanged in those two positions.
Hey, Matt, this is Grace Rayner with The Athletic. As someone who obviously spends a lot of time around Trevor Lawrence, what is your best Trevor offseason story?
That's a great question. I need to think about that for a second. Oh man, I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know if I can think of a single moment, but I will say Trevor Lawrence is a great guy to be around every day. And, not that many people get to be around him every day, and he lives a pretty unique lifestyle for a college kid. But the way that Trevor carries himself every day, given his position and all the things he's accomplished at his age is incredible. And I know that, God puts certain people in certain positions because he knows they can handle it. And I think that's a perfect example because that's not easy. And there's a lot of things that come with being Trevor Lawrence that people might not realize. And I think that he handles himself with an unbelievable amount of class. And, I feel very grateful to be around him every day, and I block for that guy any day.
Hey, Matt, one more question about the O-line. This year, you guys, again, with the guys like yourself succeeding up to the starting positions, that also changes leadership roles inside that locker room and that meeting room. And I know that you're probably stepping up to be one of those guys. What have you seen from Jackson as far as stepping up and taking the leadership role this year?
Yeah, so that's a great point, and it's true. I think the opportunity for leadership roles, especially on the offensive line, is very abundant this year. And, myself, Cade, and Jackson have kind of tried to take a lead on a lot of that stuff, but Jackson's done a great job. I think one thing that people might not know is Jackson came in pretty heavy when he early enrolled, and the job that Jackson has done throughout his career, but especially this offseason during quarantine and all that stuff is incredible. And that dude deserves a lot of respect because he's worked really hard to get his body where it needs to be. And I think that the younger guys see that work that he's put in and day out and have a lot of respect for that. He's a guy that has come in with an unbelievable amount of talent and athleticism. And so, being a starter last year, he played really well at an all-conference level, and he's taken it to new heights this year. So he's got a lot of respect from the young guys, and they just see his grind day in and day out, and he sets a great example.
Matt, hey, this is Scott Kiefer with the Greenville News. I have several teammates, I'm thinking Tyson and Caleb, with last names that aren't the easiest to pronounce. Have you mastered their names, or have you resorted to shortening them or coming up with nicknames? How do you deal with it?
DJs, I think Uyunglele, I think that's got to be the hardest one. People seem to have a really hard time with my last name. It's 2 syllables, 9 letters. It's not that hard. But, there's definitely some unique names. I think, DJs has to take the cake. Tyson's last name, I mean, it's easy to say, but I don't know how to spell it at all. So there's some unique ones out there.
What do you call them? You say DJ?
Yeah, I mean,
T, or what do you call them?
Yeah, just DJ, Tyson. I mean, I get called Bach because that's easy. But I don't know. I mean, it shouldn't inhibit. We're not the ones that have to read it on the jersey or say it in an announcement. So that's on y'all. So good luck with that. But yeah, we can call them by our first name. It's all good.
Hey, Matt.
I know it's early, but have you been able to kind of get a sense for what's going to be this unit's calling card?
Like I said, I think that we've really tried to establish a culture of finish, aggressive, and nasty. And that's something that, is no secret that that's kind of been my brand throughout high school and college. And, it's something that Jackson and Cade, Putnam, McFadden, we all collectively want to be that type of group. And that takes effort. It's tiring to finish plays with a whistle every time, day in and day out, every drive, things like that. But it can really affect a game. And we take pride in being leaders on the offense and team. And, it's just something that we felt needed a little bit more of an emphasis going into the season. I think we've done a great job of it. But really, we'll see if the rubber meets the road on Saturdays.
Thanks, Matt.
Hey, Matt, you have one guy that migrated over from the defensive line to you guys' group this year, Taquan Johnson. He's not had much of a time with you guys because of injury, but what have you seen out of him, and what do you think he can become?
I mean, that kid, he can be as good as he wants to be. I think that, like you said, he's been limited because of injury, and, he's kind of a year behind because he was on defense, but, it's not too late to panic at all. I think, we've got opportunity to play for young guys, and he's the type of guy physically is just unreal. I mean, his weight room numbers are probably the highest on the team, and his biggest hurdle right now is going to be the mental aspect, and it's tough, especially coming from defense. You're not used to the calls, and you don't know the certain footwork, but it will come with time. And so that's a guy that I have a lot of confidence in moving forward, because the physical, there's no questioning the physical ability of Taquan. So, it's a work in progress, but he's a guy that I have high hopes for.
He's a wrestling guy coming out of high school. Weren't you also a wrestling guy coming out of high school? And does that help you guys out in the interior a lot? I know Gage was when he was there. He was a big wrestling guy.
So I personally had a short stint wrestling, we'll call it a month as a freshman, and they put me on varsity, and I got humbled rather quickly with some injuries. However, I have a lot of respect for the wrestling guys, and yes, you are correct. Gage was a wrestling guy. John was a wrestling guy. Will Putnam, Florida State champion, and Taquan as well. So I know that we've had a bunch of guys come through here with great success with wrestling backgrounds. So, there's a lot that can be said of the crossover between the two sports and the benefits of that. So, like I said, Taquan is physically very gifted, and I'm sure the wrestling background has something to do with that. And so now he's just got to put it all together. But absolutely, I think that the wrestling background for a lot of those guys is, an important tool for development.
Matt, can you tell us what you've seen from Will Putnam and Jordan McFadden?
Yeah, so, Jordan, that kid can move. People will, I guess, knock on him for height, same way they did Tremaine. And Tremaine was a heck of a player, and that's, come to the light within the past 6 months. But Jordan McFadden is a ball player, and he's a legit dude, and people should look out for him because he has certainly earned the spot that he's in, and he can play. And he can play with the best of them, especially in the passing game. I think he's got the smoothest pass set I've seen. And same thing with Will. I think Will's a young guy. Out of the five of us, he has the least experience. He's just the youngest, but I know he's up for the challenge, and he's a guy that I trust a lot. I have a lot of respect for Will. He's actually one of my roommates. So I know that, he deserves to be in that spot as well. I think that there are things and details within the offensive line play that you get more comfortable with as you go throughout your career. But for being only a true sophomore, I think he's way ahead of the curve, and he's going to be a really productive player for us.
If you would have caught that ball today, you could have said so. This is Chris Hall with allclemson.com. I saw a couple days ago you tweeted about Paul Journey. Can you just elaborate on what that's meant to you personally?
Oh yeah, well, I will say if I got the opportunity, I could talk about Paul Journey all night. I think that the opportunities that Paul Journey provides for football student athletes at Clemson are unbelievable, and I think it takes a really mature recruit to be able to recognize that and the value of that. But as a guy who's been here going into my 4th season now, I know what they've done for me. And it's certainly taken some personal ownership of that and effort. But, every player here at Clemson has the world at their fingertips and unbelievable connections and opportunities to be made. And I am just so appreciative of that program because, for me, I don't know if the NFL is going to be a reality or not. And, regardless, if it does happen, my confidence lies in who I am and who I've, developed into as a man through Paul Journey while at Clemson. So, like I said, I could talk all night about Paul Journey and how much it means to me, but I think that Paul Journey for Clemson players is way ahead of the game nationally. I don't think there's any other program around the country, especially at a big school like Clemson, that's anything close. And I would love to see it. I'd love to see other student athletes get the opportunities that we've gotten. But, I think if guys don't take advantage of Paul Journey and the opportunities, they're fools because, like I said, I have a tremendous amount of confidence going into the next season of life because of Paul Journey.
We have time for one more question for Matt.
Matt, sorry if you've already been asked this, but what's it like going up against Bresee? What's your sort of impressions of what makes him, a special talent?
Yeah, I guess the two things would be explosiveness and get off. I think that it's not like anything I've seen, and that's including Christian Wilkins. He's a great athlete, just unbelievably gifted, and true freshmen always have little details in their technique and things like that they can work on. But that kid's going to be an impact player for sure. And, he's certainly living up to his billing. He's a great guy, hard worker. I've got a lot of respect for him. So, I'm glad he's on our team.
All right. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you.